the one thing that's becoming extremely obvious is that Musk industry is so unbelievably well positioned for the next 10, 20 years. And the reason why is national security. I think what's becoming very obvious from this tariff thing that's happening with China and the US and how Tesla plays into this is that the Chinese have done an incredible job of leveraging manufacturing and securing supply chain and securing materials, which has allowed them to have a huge growth trajectory relative to everybody else in the world, specifically the United States, to the point where the United States has been on a constant decline for decades. Sad to say, as an American, it sucks, but it's true. While at the same time, China has been going up. And it's going up because it knows how to manufacture a ton of stuff, but more importantly, it is securing more and more of the world's supply chain around very important things that are directly related to national security. So what are these things? So rare earth minerals, it's securing a lot of manufacturing capacity to make boats and tanks and drones, right? In the age of AI, China is super, super focused on manufacturing chips, even though they are at a huge disadvantage right now. They're catching up. They're going all in into national security. But the reason why I think Tesla is such a huge deal in this case, it's because they are literally the only major player in the United States that is creating a supply chain and a manufacturing capacity that is tailored for the next 10, 20 years. Batteries, right? Batteries, the 4680 and whatever else, there are other formats, but they're trying to build a gigantic supply chain for batteries and manufacturing capacity in the United States. Transportation, cheap transportation, affordable transportation. A lot of the car manufacturers are no longer in the United States, even the American ones. I think I saw a report Honda and Toyota are more American made than Ford or GM. That doesn't make sense. So moving stuff from point A to point B is incredibly important, especially when you have the Chinese economy pumping out electric vehicles like crazy. But the more important one, the one that nobody's talking about because it feels so sci-fi. It's artificial intelligence, specifically humanoid robots. The humanoid robot piece nobody's talking about. And why is it so important? Think about China. What is one of their key core competencies? What's their key advantage versus everybody else? They can manufacture a lot of stuff. They are the world's manufacturer. They're the world's supply chain. But all of that is powered by humans. They have 1.3, 1.4 billion people. They're extremely hardworking. They work 12-hour days, 6 days a week. They take off 2 weeks a year. Their entire population knows how to work and knows how to work extremely hard, and they've gotten really, really good at building stuff, okay? But human capital is one of China's primary advantages. In the age of humanoid robots, when you have a robot that can do what any human could in the physical world with the advent of artificial intelligence and robotics, all of a sudden, China's core advantage is gone, is completely gone, right? And what is Tesla's next biggest product after full self-driving, which is going live here in Austin, behind me, here in Austin? It's going live in June, right? And it's going to quickly propagate through the rest of the world. Self-driving technology has been happening. But the bigger one is humanoid robots, Optimus Bot. The raw materials of a humanoid robot at scale, 1, 2, 3 million units per year, are going to be no more than 50,000. Let's be kind and say 80,000, okay? An $80,000 humanoid robot one-time cost, if you're able to use it for 5 years, something like 100 hours a week or even 120 hours a week, right? And you assume it's 80% as fast as a human with average human on most tasks, right, that it can do. The hourly rate for a robot that can do that is basically $3 an hour, which is less than the average hourly rate in China for manufacturing. So all of a sudden, Tesla specifically, or whoever else can come up with this plan, but Tesla's in the prime position here, all of a sudden, you have a company that can churn out a gigantic amount of humanoid robots that will very quickly diminish China's core advantage, which is labor. And China has to know this. China has to know this. They're going into the humanoid robot game themselves. But who outside of Tesla in the United States has the scale, the manufacturing prowess, the leadership, the AI supply chain, the AI compute, the AI knowledge, the real world expertise when it comes to collecting that data through their cars than Tesla? Nobody. And then the same thing with SpaceX. You think about SpaceX and Starship and Falcon 9. What other company has reusable rockets? Nobody. Okay. Why are reusable rockets so incredibly important to national security? It's a very simple equation. Which country is better positioned? The one that can send a bunch of stuff into space for cheap, or the ones that can barely send anything to space for very expensive? It seems like having stuff in space is a gigantic national security advantage, especially if you can do it with this magical thing called Starship, which is going to essentially 100x the volume of stuff into space. Then you have Starlink. Starlink, you can have high-speed internet anywhere, on boats, on planes, in homes, okay? And that's enabled from the reusable rockets that SpaceX uses with the Starship and Falcon 9 and et cetera, right? And people don't grasp that. People are too stuck on the, oh my God, it's being run by a, it is diminishing, thank God, but it's being run by a crazy person, Elon, blah, blah, blah. Elon Musk is the greatest national security asset that America has, by far. And it's because all his industry are incredibly important for national security, especially in a world where China continues its rise, deservedly so. Tesla is one of the very few players that's helping America stay competitive. That's just the truth. And anybody who wants to contend that, please let me know in the comments. Because I'm having a very hard time understanding what other companies as well positioned as Musk Industry is in general. And I think this is why it's no accident that Elon Musk and Trump are partners. I think this was inevitable. Elon's businesses are gaining a tremendous amount of influence, but they're also becoming a very important variable for national security. And it's extremely unfortunate the way this whole thing went down on the politics side, because the Biden administration or the Kamala administration, if they had enough foresight, they would have embraced Musk Industry. But instead, they actively pushed him away. They actively made him into an enemy. They actively put a target on his back. They actively said, billionaire bad. And Elon is not a perfect being by a long shot. He has a lot of major flaws, just like most people, right? We get to see them. Most people get, they have the luxury of hiding their bullshit. Elon chooses to air it out in public, which that's on him. But the overarching point here is when we're talking about the important thing about the future, which is having places for people to flourish and having places for people to be able to fulfill their dreams and their goals in a world where you have one major power coming to prominence and you have one existing power that's diminishing in their prowess and their ability to stay relevant because of decades of misprioritization, decades of bad investing strategies, decades of poor policy. There's a very bright, shining star in Musk Industry that is impossible to ignore, especially now. And with the decision that Trump has made to accelerate essentially these long-term national security discussions, which feel like a trade war, but in reality, it's a reorganization of the sort of, using this term, the global order. Watch my previous video about why I think this is that. You need companies to be able to secure America's supply chain and secure America's manufacturing for the next generation things. And the next generation things are things made with batteries that move stuff, i.e. cars, on their own, with self-driving, and humanoid robots that build things using artificial intelligence that all of a sudden will allow countries like America, who are very uncompetitive from a labor rate perspective, an hourly rate perspective, all of a sudden they undercut their biggest competitor because it's a lot cheaper to power a human or robot than it is to pay somebody, even if it's in China, even if it's in Mexico. I think most people will realize this decade, probably end of the decade, once human or robots become obvious. And I think the national security implications of human or robots won't be fully grasped until then. It makes no sense for a competing country. Like, just literally think about this for a second. Would you be comfortable with extremely advanced human or robots that are powered by artificial intelligence that are developed by the Chinese in your home? Just ask yourself that question. No knock against the Chinese. But do you really think that's a smart thing to do? Do you think that's a smart thing to do in its current place? Or would you rather have one that's in America, that's made in America? It's going to have all those cameras. It's going to have the ability to lift stuff and move stuff. It's going to have the ability to potentially use those arms and legs to cause harm. Would you rather that robot be from your country or an adversary? This is where we're going. It's so obvious. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks.